guests across the border and from England and everywhere else. Welcome. Wave if you're from outside of BC. Wave so we know who you are. Yay! Thank you. So we practice and teach tools for transformation, authentic self-expression, and conscious living. Wherever you are on your path and wherever you're soaring, whether you're soaring or you're struggling, there's a place for you here. We know that times are tumultuous right now, and we gather each Sunday to learn, to pray, and connect so that we can go out into the world and do our part to realize that oneness, the unity, and the peace in our lifetime. Our spiritual community is absolutely one of the most powerful outlets for healing. So thank you for being here today. And I'm so delighted to see each and every one here. It's just so cool. I'd like to just pause for a minute so we can have our opening song. So let's enjoy One Spirit. So today we have a very special guest that we're welcoming from Seattle, Washington, Rev. Karen Cleveland. We're thrilled to have you back, Karen, today as our guest speaker. And following her intriguing talk last November, we had many requests for her to come back and do a workshop around the fascinating topic of animals and their capacity to help us deepen our spirituality. So she is the spiritual director of One Love Animal Connection Ministry and a professional animal communicator. So Rev. Karen is the right and perfect person to facilitate such a workshop. My fingers are crossed that this is going to happen for us at some time. So we hope you can come and do this for us sometime, Rev. Karen. Until then, we're so pleased to have you today in our community this Sunday, and we're just delighted. And you might notice on the chat space there is a website. I think it's there. And so she has a website if you want to know more about what she's all about. And way to go. Let's listen to Rev. Karen. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. It's so wonderful to be back. And I have a message on my screen. Okay. So this last Monday morning, I woke up early. I couldn't sleep Sunday night. Shortly before going to bed, my friends started texting, my little network of friends started texting, hey, there's people with guns down in the streets of my little town of Snohomish. Now, this was following the protesters and riots the night before in Seattle. I live in Snohomish, which is just north of Seattle. Many of you probably know where that is. But I thought, why on earth are these people coming to Snohomish? All we have are antiques. No one wants to loot antiques, right? But the reports I was getting was not that these were protesters, but these were people with guns, and they were there. I didn't know why they were there. I think at the time, no one knew why they were there. And so I couldn't sleep that night because it was really close to home. And I was wondering, am I safe? Is it safe to go out? So I got up early. It was probably 4 a.m. I started looking at the news reports, started looking it up. And no, there were no protesters. There were no rioters. Antifa was not there. These were local guys, part of I don't know if it's just American group called the Proud Boys, who is a far-right militant group, basically. So when their purpose there, what they said was to protect the businesses of Snohomish from the looters. And we all kind of knew that wasn't going to happen anyway, because the looters had a different kind of looting in mind than antiques. But that's when I kind of started to really worry, because these guys, my neighbors, my locals, were in downtown Snohomish with their guns trying to intimidate people from coming to town and trying to intimidate people from spreading the message of Black Lives Matter. And I, like I said, so that's when I really started to worry. It's like, who are my neighbors? Who am I living with? Who are these people around me? So the talk that I'm doing this week is not the one that I thought I was going to do 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when I sent in a description of my talk for this week. I'm being called to talk about something else. And I think probably everyone, no matter where you stand on any of the issues. There's been so much going on. I mean, who knew after the isolation and quarantine and social distancing with coronavirus that things would escalate even higher in our society and bring discomfort, frankly. A lot of people are uncomfortable. A lot of people just don't know what's going on or maybe a little anxious. So what I want to talk about today is not what you can do, but it's what we need to do as a people that have a higher consciousness, that have tools to go a little deeper. I think we're being called to support others, if nothing else, to be able to stabilize ourselves, to be able to manage our energy so that we can have the heart space, we can have the witness space to hear and to support the other people that are going through very difficult times right now. And I think that's why we need to have this conversation, or I need to have this conversation right now, you know, but in the bigger scheme of things, why do we need to have this conversation? Why is the chant, the saying, Black Lives Matter, so important right now? I mean, of course it's important because of the murder of George Floyd and Michael Brown and Ahmaud Arbery and so many other situations, but what's behind these incidents? Why, particularly in the United States, why is this systemic racism so prevalent? And I know the United States has a different history than Canada or England, but we all have problems. Our problems might be a little bit different, but we all have problems with either the natives, the Aborigines, the, you know, people of a different system, a different culture, a different society. So where does this racism or the sexism or the homophobia, where does it come from? And I believe at the roots, as I'm sure many of you do, it comes from something and someone being different from us. It comes from a fear of that difference because we don't know what to expect. We don't know how they're going to show up. We don't know what they're going to say. We don't know what they're going to do. And these fears get passed on through generations, through cultural activities and stories. They just get passed on. And if we don't take the time to help others look through that fear and get to know the other people, it's just going to perpetuate and continue and continue. My husband is a native Kenyan, and tribalism is huge in Kenya. It's alive and well. And tribalism is the reason so many young people right now want to leave Kenya, because if they aren't in the right tribe, they can't get jobs. Often they get harassed by police. They can't get the same education or favors or have the same opportunities that people of certain tribes get. So this problem is not unique to the Western world by any means. Anytime, it's kind of, it's not humorous, but anytime my husband or friends are talking about that they work with other Kenyans or they know another Kenyan here in the US, almost his first question is, oh, what tribe are they from? And it's not, for my husband, it's not a judgment of the character of the person, but it's a way of finding out like what part of Kenya they're from. So for you and I, it might be what state or what province are you from? But for many people in Kenya, asking what tribe you're from is to place it, you know, in the hierarchical placement of society. So tribalism goes back, you know, millennia as a very good, cautious way of not knowing what an approaching tribe was going to do, or if they were peaceful or violent. You know, it had a good purpose at one time, but it's still being carried on in various forms today. And we see it, of course, as not exactly tribalism, although there's always an us versus them, and it might be our football teams, might be our baseball teams, our hockey teams. It there's often an us versus them, and we are good, and because we don't understand them, they are not good. They are bad. You are bad. So again, this fear is, of course, perpetuated by not taking the time for people to really try to understand each other, to understand their values, what they like to do, what kind of food they eat, what their rituals are. So I believe that exposure to, so travel, conversation with the others is important to kind of calm the fears, these fears that we have of we don't know. When we take the time to get to know the people from other countries and cultures and societies, we usually find out, much to our, not dismay, but much to our surprise, that they're the same as us. They have the same kind of family dynamics. They have the same desires, the same kind of happiness, and they want the best for their family. And we all kind of want the same thing. But when there's a language barrier or some other kind of barrier, we don't understand that. People just kind of shut the other group down. And then I believe that the root of this fear stems from our forgetting unity and oneness, and that there is no separation from God. And if we are living one with God in the one mind, then we would remember that there is no separation, that we are connected. But that's so easily lost. That separation is so easily lost. If we can remember it and live it, we kind of know things are going to be okay. We know that there's a natural flow of life. There's a divine order in what's happening. So, I'm sure a lot of you have felt discomfort in one way or another lately between all the escalating events going on. And let's remember, discomfort is really the necessary catalyst for change. So, and growth. And if we were to stay comfortable in our own little space that we've defined, then we're just going to stay in that little space. There's not going to be any growth. Nothing's going to change. Pretty much any event that has changed the world, that has changed anyone's society, has come from discomfort. So protesters, wars, it's people taking a stand for something different. And putting yourself out there like that is not easy, and it's not comfortable, because we don't know what's going to happen, and it's scary. And maybe, so like what I was feeling, that I don't have any control what's going on in my town, and it's unfair what's happening out there. And the bottom line is, I don't have any control over it. So the truth is, we never have control over it. But when we're staying comfortable and confined in our space, the more we have in their tidy little spaces, the less we see our lack of control in other areas, if that makes sense. But what if amidst all this discomfort and this inevitable change that's happening, what if beyond that, we could all imagine a wonderful outcome to all the seeming madness right now? What if this is all just a catalyst for some wonderful new world order, right? I mean, I know that I now know, I didn't know this for most of my life, but I now know that I've lived a huge life of privilege. And it was actually first brought to attention in ministerial school by yours, Reverend Cassandra. She told me to read Waking Up White. And frankly, I was shocked. And I was shocked, but I was saddened by finding out the things that people of color had to go through in their daily lives. And I just couldn't imagine living a whole life like that. And now that I have, I mean, and this is, 0.1% of what people of color live with every day. But now, even when my Black husband leaves the house, I do worry that he's going to come home in one piece. What if he gets some random pullover by a cop, or anything could happen. So on a very small scale, very, very small, and I understand it's not at all the same, but wouldn't it be great if we could be that space for someone else and open up to a new experience that will occur, that Black people can just take a deep, deep breath, sigh of relief, that they don't have to worry about leaving the house. And that's what all this change and all this, upheaval, I guess, is going to bring about. A peace, some kind of peace in the life. So they don't have to worry if their family is going to make it home whole. What would that look like? And how do we hold that vision? How do we hold any vision greater than what we've ever known? It's easy to hold a vision for something someone else has done before, something we know is possible. So we need to hold a vision for something that is seemingly impossible. But we also have to know that in God, there's a possibility that things can change for the better. I want to talk about the Buddhist belief real quick about separation, because I believe it's our separateness, our lack of unity and oneness that allows these fears in other people, but our own fears of speaking out or of being the place to be witness or to be the helper, to be what we need to be. And we're all on a different level on this. I understand. I can't speak for every person individually, so it's kind of as a general whole. But the Buddhist idea of separation is dukkha. It's the first noble truth, dukkha, and which is there is suffering. But it's not just suffering. It's not clearly defined as suffering. It's also dissatisfaction and sorrow and grief and alienation. So it's kind of undefinable in the English language, but every human has this to some degree in their lives. And the reason for this suffering is the second noble truth, which is Tana, and I honestly don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but Tana is loosely described as longing, longing or desire. And it's our longing or desire that is causing our suffering. So wanting something we don't have, But a Buddhist teacher I was reading, Polly Young Eisendrath, in the book Love Between Equals. I just want to read how she describes dukkha, or suffering. So Polly says, from a Buddhist perspective, this feeling of alienation is the result of ignorance that breeds hatred and greed, as well as fear and anxiety. We are ignorant of our radical interdependence within the entire context, other people, animals, and plants, that holds us up and is available to help us. Now that we live in a more de-animated world of virtual reality and urban environments, we can readily feel afraid and alone, even in a busy city. In our world, only humans and some animals are conscious. So I just want to reread this one. We are ignorant of our radical interdependence within the entire context. So she's saying we are ignorant, we have forgotten that we are a part of the entire context. We have removed ourselves from the entire context of the natural plant, animal, human world. And that's what's causing the suffering that we have. And that longing or that desire that often feels like a hole in our heart is because we've lost our connection. In many ancient indigenous cultures, they didn't pray to a god because there was no god outside of them. They knew their entire connection with the whole thing. And so it wasn't until, some weird part of human evolution that we started praying to other gods and religions came about, and the animals were out there and nature was out there and we were here trying to fend for ourselves. So somehow that happened, but there was a time, presumably, that we all knew we were connected and that we knew that the divine flow of life was going to happen and things were going to work out as they were supposed to. So this, when you have this feeling of oneness, when you can live in unity with no separation, then you can live more in harmony because you are not so worried about the outcomes. You know that the outcomes might look good or bad, but kind of in the end, it's all going to be okay. And I'm not trying to minimize any experiences, but I want us to be able to be the space to hold the higher vision for others. Animals are always present. And they're not mulling over the mistakes that they made. They're not saying, God, I really screwed up that hunt. I'm going to have to diagram this and see where I went wrong. And I don't want to screw up the hunt in the future. So how am I going to do this? They don't worry about that kind of stuff. They just do it. They just are. They're truly living in the moment. And I'm referring mostly to wild animals because our pets do get caught up in our messed up chaotic energy, and they do fall into some of our habits and thought patterns. But the wild animals, when I go to Kenya and I'm out on the plains watching with a zebra, the zebra doesn't care that there's a lion sleeping 100 yards away. If that zebra or any of the other prey animals were worried about that lion being close in their proximity, they would be a neurotic mess. And all the animals on the plains would be, a nervous wreck because there's always lions or cheetahs or leopards. And so they just can't worry about it. So they live in the moment and they know that their needs are being taken care of right now. And if the lion wakes up and starts to chase them, then they'll deal with it then, but they're not going to worry about it until then. My personal experience with oneness has come through my connection with animals. And I'll try to be brief because, boy, time goes fast when you're talking. So my personal journey, so if I am connecting with an animal, if a client hires me to talk to their animal, I have to be 100% honest and truthful with that animal. My job is to represent the animal. And if I'm not 100% with it, then I'm not doing a fair job to the animal or the person. And so I have to be 100% present with them, focused with them. And when you learn to be 100% present with an animal, you learn to be, or at least I learned to be, I learned how that mirrored my connection with God and life. And so I began to understand how this all connects together. So what on earth does this have to do with Black Lives Matter, right? So what am I talking about? So it's up to us to practice coming from that place of unity. It's up to us to be able to get through our own grief and sorrow and pain. And don't just affirm it away. That's not what we want to do. We want to look at it, we want to feel it, but we want to be able to come to a place where things can balance out. So we want to get in touch with that unity, the oneness, because we know on the other side of this terrible pain and discomfort, there's going to be growth and there's going to be change. And we know that because we've seen it and we've probably all experienced it. So it's up to us, again, to get to our own space of harmony so that you can go out and do what you need to do in the world for the others, whether it's being their support, just spiritually or emotional support, or it's the physical support out on the front lines, whatever it is that's yours to do, you need to come to it honestly from your own space. And knowing that there's a good possibility you're going to feel hurt, you're going to feel pain, you're going to feel the sorrow of those that you are, the sorrow of those you are helping. Knowing that there's a possibility in God of a greater tomorrow, I think that makes it all worth it. And I encourage you to find your own place where you know that makes it worth it to help someone else know that there's a better possibility on the other side. So I'm going to just open a challenge to you to do whatever you need to do. And I know many of you probably already are in that space of oneness and unity. So how are you going to take it out to the world? What are you going to do? How can you take your spiritual energy and put it on the pavement where it needs to be? Or is it going to be financial support? Or, you know, is it going to be spreading the word about it? I don't know. I don't know. I just feel, I know that I need to do something, and sometimes I don't know what, but I just do what I can. And I be that space in the moment until I figure out what else I need to do. And you just do it step by step. We don't always do it right the first time. We make mistakes. But if we don't do something, we're allowing that fear to take hold. And we know better than that. We know that there's something greater waiting. All right, so I guess my prayer waits till the end. So I will take questions. And in this moment where we are, we're all around the world. Can you believe this? We're talking with people all around the world right now. Imagine the impact our energy has just in those little spots where we are. So know right now in your heart, know love in your heart right now. Feel love. Feel that love of God. Feel that love that you have for your most cherished person or animal or artwork or whatever it is that you are passionate about. Feel that love. Because our love can't help but ripple out into our vicinity, and because we are everywhere, we're going to cause a beautiful impact. So know in your heart now this love, and know that what is happening out there, it's real, it's painful, but tune in to your connection with the divine and say, what is the greater possibility from this? What is the greatest thing that can happen? Let your mind go wild. What is the best outcome? Because I know it's possible in God. I've had magic happen in my life, and magic can happen all around the world. I sincerely believe it. Of course, we know it's not really magic. It's manifestations, and it's the possibilities coming to life. But let us know a deeper and higher purpose and possibility for the outcome of all the things going on, no matter what it is, no matter if it's Black Lives Matter, if it's an Asian racism problem, if it's the Aboriginal somewhere else, whatever the problem is, know that there's a higher outcome for those that are taking a stand. This is how change happens. And this is how our discomfort is transformed. So I stand in knowing this truth right now. I am grateful to know that this truth, that this greater possibility is an option. I stand in knowing this love is an option everywhere available. And I turn it over to God, knowing that there's nothing we need to do but hold our own space, and that is it. And I bless this time and all of you and everything that's being done. God bless us all. And so it is.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Rev Karen. Oh my goodness. Such a wonderful message today, and so practical and so easy. We can just all do this, and we're all practitioners. So we can all practice this. That's why we're called practitioners. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So this is our time, everyone, for sacred giving, and knowing that what we give returns multiplied abundantly. We practice the law of circulation. It gives us, and we give what we can joyfully. And you can give it on our website at cslwhiterock.com/donate. It's simple and secure. You can make a one-time offer, or recurring donations and gifts of all sizes are helpful. Your contribution makes such a positive impact. We gratefully appreciate and receive your gifts, your tithes, and your offerings. So those of you that have been doing this weekly, we really appreciate it. It helps us pay our bills and our minister and all of the other things, that the costs that come with running this. Even though we're on virtual, we still have bills to pay, and we want to share our abundance with others as well. So we've got lots of plans. So thank you for those of you that are giving weekly or monthly. We really do appreciate it. We have a few announcements. Every Tuesday, we have a live meditation. And right now, for this month, we have Tamara, our wonderful Tamara Rossender, who's leading that at 9:30 Tuesday mornings. And you can zoom in on that. It's marvelous. I've been there most Tuesdays, and we have a nice group. You have time to check in and chat, and it's fabulous. So do join us on Tuesdays at 9:30 if you wish to join us for a guided meditation. We also have another class with Cassandra. Rev Cassandra is doing her classes as individual modules. And so each module that's offered Thursdays at 7, and I think it's also on Wednesdays during the day. What time is that on Wednesdays, Tamara? I can't hear you. You're muted. Sorry.
You did it. Wednesday morning is at 10.
Okay, so Wednesdays at 10 or Thursdays at 7. You can just do the one module. Costs $25. That's one less trip to Starbucks. No big deal. Or maybe 2 less trips to McDonald's. I don't know. Anyhow, it's a wonderful class. It's a chance to chat with each other, learn some things around change. She's designed the whole course herself. Her curriculum is amazing. I'm in that course, and it's fantastic. And those of you who are in there can wave your hand if you're in that class. Yeah. So there you are. These people can tell you how wonderful it is. It's spectacular. So that's another thing you can join us with. And it's helping you to practice change in your everyday life and spiritual practice. Next Sunday, we're going to start something new. We're going to have a Zoom chat. So for anyone who wants to stay after service, we're going to have little breakout rooms where you'll end up chatting with 1 or 2, just like we're having coffee, like we did at the center. You're going to be with 1 or 2 people if you like, and you can chat, ask questions, talk to Rev Cassandra about things. And we just thought it would be nice to have that time to really, really connect with each other, because on Zoom, we kind of don't get a chance to do that. So we're still ironing out the details, but do join us for chat room after service next Sunday. Thank you so much for being here today, and blessings for your week. And I'm just going to stop here and let them play our wonderful music from Amber Darland.